I've been trying to start this video for the past like 20 minutes and I'm so nervous for some reason. I have no idea why. But today we're going to be going over some of my favorite albums, EPs, and singles of 2023. This year has probably been one of my biggest discoveries yet of just new music and kind of branching out of emo. This is really strange to say, but I don't have any emo bands on my top 5 or my honorable mentions list, and I am a little surprised. I feel like I have just grown up so much since I started doing all of this stuff. And at the moment, I just feel like I've kind of grown out of emo, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels a little good just discovering new sounds. I'm so sorry to disappoint you right off the bat, but I don't have any emo on here. It's lots of different stuff this year, and I'm really excited to share it. My top 5 list is so different compared to like any other favorite albums video I've done so far, and it's gonna be strange, so I hope you're all prepared. So I think I'm gonna start going over my top 5 and do like a little in-depth review about them, and then I will do some honorable mentions and just kind of go from there and hang. Number 5 on my list is Tanuki-chan's Gizmo, and my favorite track off of Gizmo was Thin Air. So back when I used to DJ at the college radio station this past year, Gizmo was actually one of the albums that was on our heavy rotation shelves, and I fell in love with it so fast, and I found myself playing it every single shift when I would come in. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I would have found this album if I wasn't DJing at the station, so really cool. But yeah, anywho. So after hearing a few opinions about this album from a few people, it seems like this album wasn't very loved this year, and it makes me kind of sad because I actually really enjoyed it. This is a great album to dive into if you're wanting that dreamy and ethereal feel with a bit of fuzz to it. But with Gizmo, she's definitely taken it back a notch and included sounds with some jangling and synthetic dream pop tendencies, melting in with some similar sounds of gentle rock like in Don't Give Up or Escape that really worked. To me, I feel like Gizmo is a lot more lighter and delicate compared to Sundays, but I think it's a great follow-up and something you can easily listen to if you just want to kind of throw an album on and just relax. Like I mentioned, not a lot of people were drawn towards this album this year, but again, if you just want something that's nice and easy to listen to, mixed with some pretty vocals, you'd probably like Gizmo. Number 4 on my list this year is honestly an album that I think is going to really surprise you, and it surprised myself as well, but I have The Great Escape by Larry June and The Alchemist. My favorite track, hands down, is Solid Plan, almost solely because Action Bronson is on it, but it's also a really good song. I really couldn't tell you why I started listening to this album. I feel like it might have been because The Alchemist produced it, because Alchemist is amazing, but with some of my first few listen throughs, I knew it was going to be in my top 5, which was very strange for me because I feel like rap and hip hop normally, I don't think it's ever been in my top 5. It's just not a genre I know much about, but this album, I don't know, it just did it for me. And also, this album was kind of the same with Gizmo, where I was just reading what people were talking about the album, and it doesn't seem like it hit, but it hit with me. If you've been around here for a while, you'll know how much I love lo-fi. I put lo-fi in the background of all my videos, and I feel like The Great Escape gave off that aesthetic within the entire album. When I was reading through some reviews of this album, Pitchfork actually had a really funny quote that I thought nailed it to a T. They said, "Larry June raps like he's guiding a meditation. His voice is rarely rising above a soothing monotone," which is definitely painfully accurate. I'm gonna say it again, I really enjoyed this album. Was a lot of it mainly for the production, with the album sounding super layered, hazy, and creative? Sure. But I think Larry added another level of chillness to it that I think some other artists couldn't do. It's a great palette cleanser album if you've been in the chaos of finding your favorite albums this year, and I highly recommend The Great Escape, especially if you're looking for a relaxing evening of cleaning your apartment. Alrighty, we're getting closer to number 1. But my number 3 is taking a total 180 from the last album, and I have Girl with Fish by Feeble Little Horse. And my favorite track is Tin Man. I really fell in love with Feeble Little Horse back in 2021 when they came out with Heyday, specifically because they were doing something a little bit different within the relative shoegaze scene. And Girl with Fish, it honestly did the exact same thing for me. Feeble's sound has always stood out for me with their swirly sonic riffs and extra fuzzy tones, but also including ethereal and welcoming vocals with a fun approach to shoegaze instead of your usual gloomy feel. Which, by saying that, maybe Feeble Little Horse are a little bit more like noise pop leaning? Who knows? I don't know. Girl with Fish managed to blend shoegaze with a few other sounds as well, like some glitchy electronic bits in their songs Slide and Healing, as well as almost half the album including acoustics, which I feel like is a great way to add a little bit of depth to the album. This entire album has such infectious tracks with thick and fuzzy guitars, some charming and easygoing acoustics, and just an overall really youthful feel. It has such an overall carefree feeling to it, but in the most put together, thoughtful way possible. If you're a big fan of shoegaze but kind of wanting to experiment with that sound, I highly recommend checking out Girl with Fish. Up next, I have The Sin of Human Frailty by End. My favorite track was Gaping Wounds of the Earth. This album quite literally slapped me in the face. If you saw my Spotify rap video, you'll know that End was in my top 5, and they quickly became a huge favorite of mine over the past year. They're so panicky and abrasive, and leave you feeling with rage because of how impactful their music is. And when Gaping Wounds of the Earth was randomly released one day, let me tell you, I could cry. The Sin of Human Frailty is hands down one of the most gruesome albums I've heard both lyrically and instrumentally. End have seemed to go a bit more metalcore in this album compared to Splinters, with changing up the guitar tones a bit, sounding a little bit more tinny. And it even sounds so much more aggressive, which I didn't even think was possible for them. Engineered and produced by Will Putney, who's the guitarist for End, as well as Fit for an Autopsy, managed to help uplift this relatively newer and massive sound for End. While they already had a heavy sound, this album managed to blend tons of newer soundscapes, even including some electronic elements in Thaw, which when I heard it for the first time, I didn't know if I liked it, but then after listening to it a few times, it's insane. I'll be the first to admit it, but I didn't hear anything of what Brendan was singing at all until I looked up the lyrics, and my god, they're filled with so much pain, anger, and grief, but it's also really greatly written at the same time. At the end of the day, and if you're looking for something that's gonna melt your face off in the best way possible, I'd give this Sin of Human Frailty a try. This album is definitely gonna be a little bit heavy for some people, so if you like something heavy, metalcore, and very punchy, you're gonna like this one. Oh my gosh, it's finally time for my favorite album of 2023. It was such an interesting discovery for me and I can't wait to dive into it, but my number one favorite album of 2023 is Grog by Frog. My favorite track, honestly, I would say the whole album if I could, but I would probably say 420, You're Still Mine, or New Row as well. But I genuinely haven't been this excited to hear, let alone talk about an album in what feels like freaking years. I was in the process of finding new albums for 2023 just to kind of make this wrap up at the end of the year, and I was looking at bands that I used to like and just tons of different bands, and I came across Frog and I knew I enjoyed Frog, and when I saw this album, firstly, I love the album cover. It's so just cute and quirky, and let me tell you, I sat down and listened to it in its entirety and I fell in love. I probably listened to it 3 times within that night just because I liked it so much. And like just from that first listen, I hands down knew it would be my album of the year, and I found it 2 weeks ago, given it just came out in November. But like the fact that an album had that much of an impact on me, that it's my number one album, that should say something to you if you have no idea who Frog is. Frog is everything and anything put into one album. Slacker rock, it's all country, it's folk, it's acoustic, it's pop, it's noise. This album feels so at home with super witty and goofy lyrics talking about Taco Bell, the Butthole Surfers, chicken pot pie, and Dexedrine at times. I feel like Dan could sing about like your scared dog at the skate park and it would still probably be one of the best songs of 2023. They managed to create an album that feels so playful and groovy instrumentally, yet semi-sad and yearning lyrics, but also make it fun and quirky. Like I said, they definitely mentioned some goofy topics in Grog, but there's also some feeling of fatherhood, growing up in New York, and dropping out of college but being afraid. All of which I don't really relate to whatsoever, but Frog has made this album so accessible and fun and just really easy to listen to, with their quirky instrumentals and really welcoming tones, and have truly created something beautiful. I could seriously go on about Grog for probably the next 15 minutes, but if you're looking for something lighthearted, super goofy, witty, fun, and fresh, I would highly recommend checking out Grog by Frog. Phew, that's over. So scary. I wanted to narrow things down to my top 5 because I feel like more than that, with review, can get really overwhelming, so 5 is a good spot. Definitely let me know what some of your favorite albums were because I'm super interested. It'd be really fun to hear about it. But we're going to go into my honorable mentions and go kind of quickly about it. I'm just going to give like a little genre synopsis about it and the album name and stuff. First up, I have Greg Mendes' Self-Titled. This is for fans of Elliott Smith or Alex G. It's some really pretty acoustic music that is really hard to not like, and this album was just pretty in every way. Next up, I have Sandhills by Toro y Moi. Again, very, very Alex G heavy, quick little EP. Next, I have The Holy Bible by Flory. This is kind of a smaller group that I discovered a few months ago, and there's some very fun and twangy alt country. And then a classic, I have Eye on the Bat by Palehound, which is kind of similar to Adult Mom, Chastity Belt, Girl Pool, just like a really fun sound overall. And then if you're looking for some really good singer-songwriter, the album Johnny by John Roseborough has been one of my favorites. Such a great bossa album. It's beautiful. And then I have My Simone's, who came out with quite a few singles this year, so I'll just kind of put them up somewhere so you can see them, but she has such a gorgeous sound, kind of similar with John Roseborough. They actually came out with a few songs together as well, so check out both of them. And this next one, I know it's going to be on a lot of people's top favorite albums, is Rat Saw God by Wednesday. I feel like I don't need to say much because I feel like everyone knows them already, but great kind of shoegazy, experimental, fun album. And again, if you're looking for something really fun, I would check out When Horses Would Run by Being Dead. Another great one that I think came out this year from a previous year is Mind Palace Music by At. And then changing gears a little bit, I have All Bad by Nick Shoulders, which is some great yodeling, twangy country. Then we're changing it up again, and I have Remote Echoes by Duster. Everyone knows Duster, just some good slowcore. This one has taken me a little bit of time to get into, but it's slowly growing on me. But I have Heartbreak Rules by Horse Jumper of Love. And then I have Knocknaria by Maruja, which is very hard to describe, so I would just check it out if you have the time. And then we have a huge comeback from Jerome's Dream, which is The Great In Between. Insane album. It sounds like they haven't aged. Scrams and Screamo if you don't know. Then I have Dirtbuyer 2 by Dirtbuyer, omarr, which is kind of acoustic, a little bit experimental. I'd almost want to say good singer-songwriter in a way. Highly recommend. And you know I had to include the 2 Knocked Loose singles. And then lastly, kind of another curveball in there, but I have Call Me If You Get Lost, The Estate by Tyler, the Creator. Alrighty, well those are all my albums. It has been a very exciting year for music, and I am very happy to say I experimented a lot this year. I found albums that were so out of my comfort zone, and I felt like I just did a lot of growing this year, where in previous years it's just been emo, Alex G, and now it's just like my top 5 is so random. And I'm actually really happy about that. So I've said it so many times, but please just try experimenting with your taste. Go find different genres that you've never heard of or different artists that you've never heard of. Because I can guarantee you'll probably find at least one thing you'll like, which is what I've been doing for the past few years. And it's honestly made me a happier person. Emo can be sad at times, but a lot of other stuff is very fun. Thank you all for hanging with me and having such a great 2023. This year was lots of growth, lots of crazy things happened this year. I'm so proud and just really happy with where I've come, and honestly, everything I've done wouldn't be possible without all of you watching, so just a really big thank you. Like truly, it's really fun to do all of this and just having your support. It really means a lot to me, so thank you so much for just being here and hanging out. But one new adventure I started this year was Twitch. Feel free to catch me over on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12:30 p.m. CST. Ooh, what is this? It's always a great time. I love hanging out there. It's so much fun. I'm gonna be there a lot, as well as Instagram, kind of TikTok here and there, but I don't know when I'll be back here. This is just kind of like a fun little channel for me to just kind of put my thoughts out there. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a great intro to 2024, a great end of your 2023, and I will see you all next year. All right, goodbye.